Yep, these headphones right here, the Beyerdynamic DT990, were my first ever audiophile headphones, and they are the reason why I fell in love with audiophilia for headphones in particular. I always was into the whole speaker aspect of high quality music through an analog platform, but I never tried using the whole high-res digital thing until these came along. But this wasn't always the case because I did start that headphone journey with these headphones. I didn't have a proper amp, I didn't have a proper DAC for headphones specifically. So I did get these and plug them first into my cell phone to drive them, and I found that these didn't sound great. Obviously, because these have an impedance of 250 ohms, so you do need a good amount of power. So I learned the hard way basically that you needed proper power, and then you needed a proper DAC, and you needed a proper source when it came to digital. So these headphones did help me get to where I am to a certain extent. So I'll make this as brief as I can, but I remember when I decided to get into this hobby, when I found these headphones, they were available at the time, maybe in 2014 on Flipkart, and they were being sold for about 45 to 55,000 rupees, which is absolutely insane. So I remember seeing the design, I fell madly in love with it because it is a very good looking set of headphones, and I'd never seen anything quite like it. So I did want to own them, but 45 to 55,000 rupees seemed a little excessive when it came to just getting into the hobby. So I did start doing a lot of research, and I did find that it's not really worth 45 to 55,000. So I started digging around, and I got lucky enough to find a contact number for somebody who worked at Beyerdynamic in India in particular. So I did message him and get in touch with him, and eventually he did say that he does represent Beyerdynamic India and he could sell me a set, but not beyond MRP. So I asked him, what is MRP? And if I'm not mistaken, the MRP was just below 17,000 rupees, or it was 16,500, around that price range at the time. So I was like, where's 16,500 and where's 45 and 55,000? So what was going on was pretty much what goes on even today on all Amazon and Flipkart platforms, where sellers do inflate the price if they know that there is demand and if they know that there are limited pieces. So it was being inflated that much more. So eventually I did end up buying it from him. So of course, after buying it, I did go through all that stuff of realizing that, whatever I played through, it didn't sound good. It wasn't driven well enough. Things sounded a little too tinny. There wasn't any depth in the bass. Vocals didn't sound rounded. So it left me very unimpressed. And to begin with, I did think that the headphones weren't good enough. So I think I've seen a lot of newcomers into the hobby who go through this very thing because they're not quite sure what they're doing. So consider this to be a quick learning method, because you will go through situations where you discover what bottlenecks are, and this was where I discovered what a bottleneck was. But I did go into this the same way I went into speakers, which was spend a good amount of money on what you're going to listen to and then work backwards. So after this, I did start looking at picking up a good DAC and amp, which I did, in fact, which I still have. I'm surprised these things have lasted this long. My original portable player and amp are also almost 10 years old now, and they're still going strong despite being battery powered. So eventually, after plugging it into a good DAC, or should I say, I just plugged it into a good digital player, and it just gave the sense of not being able to drive these headphones well enough. So I got a separate external amplifier, which, in fact, I'll just show you. This is the FIO X5 digital audio player, which does have storage for micro SD card slots. So it's got two slots here, which is quite cool. And then when this wasn't good enough, I found that I needed a separate amp, which this is also from FIO, in fact, and it's still going strong. Hats off to Chi-Fi, because this is almost 10 years old and it's still going strong. The battery hasn't gone flat in either of these devices. So after I did get this, the Beyerdynamics just came alive. All of a sudden, it sounded like a completely different set of headphones. So I had officially unlocked what was missing. Now, of course, there is a difference between listening to compressed music and high-res music. So to begin with, I was listening to compressed music, but the thing I like about the Beyers is that they are not so transparent. So there isn't as much of a difference between high-res audio and a compressed file as there would be if, let's say, if I were to plug in these headphones in particular. There's a huge difference between a high-res file and compressed file. So compressed files just sound absolutely awful on these. These are the Sennheiser HD800s, and You just can't listen to compressed audio with those. You have to listen to high-res audio or even analog audio. It's impossible to listen to something that's compressed. That's why these Beyerdynamics are not bad at all. It does manage to bring you enough roundedness. It doesn't bring as much compression towards its overall portrayal of the music when you're listening to it. So when it comes to the Beyerdynamic DT990 in particular, it's fared really well over the last 9 to 10 years. It's built rock solid. Now this was originally made in the 1980s. In fact, this along with the DT990 Pro, which I did review about 3 years ago, which I'll link down below, were made in the 1980s, and they're still going strong, in fact, because a lot of people are still buying these headphones. They have a classic design and they also have a terrific sound to match. Now, talking about the sound of this, whenever I use it for editing or even to listen to music, it always makes me go back to this memory of this is where I started. This is where I got into the whole headphone audiophilia of music listening. So these are my nostalgic headphones. I do like them a lot, which is what made me want to make this video. But yeah, coming back to the headphones, they sound pretty nice. That lack of bass that I mentioned that they had, if you're driving it with a powerful enough amp. In fact, now I've got a desktop amp which I picked up a few years ago. It sounds absolutely effortless with this amp. It's the lower frequencies just flow through as if it's not even trying. So when it was new and I plugged it into a phone, of course, I did think very differently of it. My opinion of it was very different. But when you understand what you need to match certain audio equipment with, your equipment can take on a completely different persona. So these are very nice sounding. In fact, one thing that always surprises me with this is how expansive the stage is. In fact, if ever you're listening with your eyes closed and listening to these headphones, it can at times give you the sense of sounds being thrown at you from further away. In fact, the DT990 Pro also does the same thing. I remember in my review there were times when I was listening to it and I thought that someone was walking in through the door, when in reality there wasn't. It's just that sounds were coming at me from elsewhere. If it's a nicely recorded and mixed track, it can give you that illusion. So that's the whole point of pulling you into your music and being able to really enjoy it. So these headphones are really no slouch, and the fact that they sound the way they do at the price that they're available at is absolutely terrific. I still love them to bits. They look absolutely gorgeous. I hope I've thrown up some nice B-roll if I've had the time to shoot it and show you, but these things are almost 10 years old. They're still going strong, and I know for a fact that if my earpads give up, I can replace them. I can replace every single screw on it, because Beyerdynamic does not only offer a 2-year warranty, but they have every single part from these headphones, despite the fact that they've been manufactured all the way from the 1980s, the mid-1980s. They are still in production and they are still being supported in case you need any small parts or larger parts changed. So that is quite commendable on Beyerdynamic's part, and it's been put together terrifically. Of course, these are assembled and made in Germany, so the build quality is terrific for its price. So there you have it. That's been a quick little story about my Beyerdynamic DT990. You'll usually see it behind me over my shoulder. It's normally on that very cool headphone stand that one of my very close friends made for me, and it looks gorgeous. It sounds as good as it looks. Sometimes even better. And I'm not quite sure if Headphone Zone is still selling this specific model, but I think Beyerdynamic is selling it. If they are, I will leave their link down in the description below if you would like to buy it. It's a terrific pair to own. I will highly recommend it to anybody. But a part of me does prefer the DT990 Pro ever so slightly, because the only thing I don't like about this is the clamping force of the headband. These have never really felt like they're being too cozy. These kind of hold on to your head like a girlfriend who's just had a fight with you, whereas the DT990 Pros hold on tight like you've not met her for over 3 months. So I think that will also make a slight difference when it comes to how the highs come through to you, because the drivers are ever so slightly closer with that slightly tighter clamping force. So that's been it. I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for tuning in for some sound advice.